Welcome back to Silent Husband Club. We've missed you, and we truly apologize for the long silence. Starting today, we're committed to sharing one powerful new story every single day. I boarded the plane home alone, just 5 days after saying I do. My honeymoon didn't end with sunsets and champagne, it ended with betrayal, humiliation, and a revelation so dark I almost lost my mind. What I saw, I can never unsee. If you've ever had your trust shattered, stick around. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Your support helps us grow, and we never want you to miss what's next. I never imagined I'd be writing something like this. Especially not 1 week after my wedding. My name's Ethan, I'm 32 years old, and 5 days ago I married Claire, the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. We had been together for 4 years. Solid years. We barely argued. We loved the same music, movies, food, we even had a matching morning routine. There were inside jokes, lazy Sundays, dreams about future kids, and a house with a garden. I proposed after a quiet dinner at her favorite Italian restaurant, and she cried when she said yes. It felt like something real. Something built to last. Our wedding was beautiful, small, meaningful, honest. I remember standing at the altar thinking, this is it. This is home. And when we flew to Tenerife for our honeymoon, I was still high from that feeling. Pure joy. Pure certainty. Now I'm sitting alone in our hotel room. Not our room, really. Just mine now. And I feel like someone kicked the ground out from beneath me. My chest is tight. My thoughts are racing in broken loops. Claire cheated on me. On our honeymoon. With our tour guide. Even writing that sentence makes me sick. I'm still struggling to process it all. I don't know what to think, how to feel, what to do next. But I have to talk about it, if not to someone, then at least to myself. Maybe writing this down will help me understand how I let it happen. How I didn't see it coming. Or maybe it'll just help me breathe again. Looking back now, there were signs. Not huge, flashing red lights, but small things that made my gut twist in ways I brushed off. Claire started acting differently the moment we arrived. She was constantly on her phone, more than usual. Whenever I leaned over or even walked past, she'd turn it face down or tuck it away. I chalked it up to jet lag, or maybe just the thrill of being in a new place. I told myself, don't be paranoid. Don't ruin the mood. Then she started asking for alone time. Let's do separate things today, she said on the 3rd day. You go surf, I'll explore the temples. I just want to wander around without a schedule for a bit. It felt weird. We were on our honeymoon. This was supposed to be our time. But I didn't want to come off as needy or controlling. Claire had always valued her independence, and I respected that. So I kissed her, smiled, and told her to have fun. That's when I first noticed how much she was enjoying the company of our guide, Kai. He was young, muscular, tanned, and had that effortless charm some people just radiate. Claire laughed louder around him. Touched his arm when she talked. Asked him more questions than she asked me. I saw it. I felt it. But I told myself I was being ridiculous. Jealous for no reason. After all, we were newlyweds. Right? 2 days later, at dinner, I got my first undeniable gut punch. We were sitting in the hotel restaurant. Candles. Wine. A little soft music. And then Claire's phone buzzed. She grabbed it so fast it caught my attention. But I'd already seen the message preview light up. It was from Kai. Can't wait to see you again, beautiful. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd throw up right there. Claire noticed my expression and immediately smiled. "Oh, that's just Kai being friendly," she laughed. "People here talk like that. It's the culture." I wanted to believe her. God, I really did. But that night, something shifted in me. I couldn't sleep. Claire said she wasn't feeling well and wanted to rest alone, so I spent the night staring at the ceiling in another room, my mind spiraling. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. Left a note on the table, went to early yoga, see you at lunch, red heart. Everything in me screamed that something was off. I'd never been the jealous type. Never the kind of man to go through someone's phone. But that morning, I broke. I needed the truth. Even if it hurt. Later that day, while she was in the shower, I unlocked her phone. What I found changed me. There were dozens of messages between Claire and Kai. Flirty at first. Then full-blown explicit. Photos. Emojis. Secret meeting spots. It started the day we arrived. They'd been sleeping together every chance they got. While I was off surfing, snorkeling, eating alone, she was in his bed. Or worse, in ours. Then I saw the messages that cut the deepest. She was mocking me. Calling me boring. Saying she regretted the wedding. Telling Kai she wished they had met sooner. That I was just safe. A fallback. Something to lean on until someone exciting came along. I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking. My breath came in gasps. And for a long time, I just sat there, staring at the screen. Numb. Hollow. This woman, this person I vowed to spend my life with, had already discarded me. Not just physically. Emotionally. Mentally. She was gone. And I was just beginning to understand how deep the betrayal went. I didn't even remember walking to the hotel bar that night. My legs moved, but my brain was somewhere else entirely. Numbness took over. A strange, hollow silence wrapped around my skull like cotton. I could hear people laughing, glasses clinking, a slow jazz track playing through cheap ceiling speakers. But it all sounded distant, like it was happening in another life. My life had just collapsed in on itself, and I was sitting there, pretending to be a man on vacation. I ordered something strong. Didn't matter what. I needed the burn. I needed to feel something. And when the alcohol hit, it didn't dull the pain, it sharpened it. Suddenly, everything came back. The messages. The pictures. The way she'd laughed when I showed her the ring. Did she mean it? Did she ever mean any of it? My thoughts were spinning so fast I couldn't hold onto any of them for long. One moment I was furious, ready to storm upstairs, throw her phone at the wall, and scream until the whole island heard. The next, I just felt pathetic. Like some kid who got picked last in gym class and pretended it didn't matter. I was supposed to be a husband. A protector. And here I was, just another fool who loved someone who didn't love him back. Around midnight, I came back up to the room. She was asleep. Peacefully. Like nothing in the world was wrong. I stared at her face in the dim light, searching for something. Guilt. Regret. Anything that might show she was human. But there was nothing. She looked so content, so untouched by the destruction she caused. That hurt worse than the betrayal itself. The next day, I said nothing. I acted like everything was normal. I kissed her on the cheek, told her I'd be going on a snorkeling tour in the afternoon. She smiled. "That sounds fun," she said, pulling on her sandals. "I might get a massage later." She had no idea I'd read everything. No clue that I was watching her more closely now, studying every word, every movement. She thought I was clueless. She thought I was still the man who would nod and smile and say okay to anything just to keep the peace. But something in me had changed. I decided to catch her. Not metaphorically. Not just with texts and suspicions, but physically. I needed to see it. As if the pain in my chest wasn't real enough already. As if watching her touch another man would somehow make it more true. I hated myself for even needing that. But I did. I needed to see with my own eyes what kind of person I'd married. I waited in the hotel lobby, pretending to read a brochure. It was hot, and my hands were sweating, even though the air conditioning was on. I kept checking the clock. She thought I was out on a boat somewhere. She thought she had time. And then I saw him. Kai. Same smug grin. Same confidence in his stride. He didn't even glance around. He just walked straight toward the elevator, like he owned the place. I followed. Not too close. Not too obvious. My heartbeat was like a drum line in my throat. I waited 5 minutes. Then I went up. I stood in front of the door, frozen. The silence behind it felt louder than anything I'd ever heard. My hand hovered over the key card. My brain screamed at me to turn around, to leave it alone, to forget I ever saw anything. But my hand moved anyway. The door clicked open. What I saw is burned into my mind forever. Claire. Naked. Her back arched. Her hands in his hair. His mouth on her neck. Our bed, the same bed we'd shared every night since the wedding, was now their stage. She gasped. Not from guilt, but from shock. They scrambled like teenagers caught by a parent. She grabbed a blanket, covered herself just enough to pretend it mattered. Her face twisted, not in shame, but in anger. Ethan? What the hell are you doing here? As if I was the one out of line. As if I was the intruder in her little fantasy. I couldn't speak. My throat was tight. My hands trembled. Kai stood awkwardly, half-dressed, muttering something I didn't even register. My eyes were locked on Claire. How long? I finally managed. My voice was brittle, cracking. She didn't answer at first. Just stared at me like she was annoyed by the inconvenience of my presence. How long has this been going on? Her lips tightened. She looked away. Does it matter? Those 3 words were like razors. Yes, I said, my voice rising. Yes, it matters. She shrugged, dragging the blanket tighter. It's not the first time. Not just with him. I couldn't breathe. What do you mean? I mean it's not new, she said coldly. There were others. Before the wedding. During. I thought marriage would fix it. That I could change. But I can't. I'm not built for this, Ethan. Monogamy. Settling down. Playing house. I staggered back like I'd been punched. My knees nearly gave out. How many? I whispered. I don't know, she said, almost bored. 10? 15? I didn't count. Every number was a knife in the gut. You married me anyway? You were safe, she said. Stable. Predictable. I thought I could live with that. But now I know I can't. I wanted to scream. To throw something. To shake her and make her feel what I was feeling. But she wouldn't. She never would. Because she didn't love me. Maybe she never had. I stood there, watching Claire pull the blanket tighter around her like she was the victim. Like I had done something wrong by showing up. Her voice was cold, clipped like she was reading off a script she'd rehearsed in her head 100 times before finally delivering it without the weight of consequence. Kai had backed away to the corner, awkwardly pulling on his shirt, eyes glued to the floor. For a moment, I felt a strange pity for him. He looked like a boy who realized too late that he'd wandered into a grown man's collapse. But that feeling vanished the moment I looked back at Claire. "You thought marriage would fix you?" I said, not recognizing my own voice. It was hoarse, hollow, like it had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "You stood there, in front of everyone we love, and lied?" She rolled her eyes. "I didn't lie. I just hoped. I thought maybe if I gave this a real shot, I'd change. That I could settle for something stable. Something safe." "Settle," I repeated, stunned. "You think being with me was settling?" Claire didn't answer right away. Her silence said more than any words could have. Finally, she exhaled, shrugged, and said it out loud, without an ounce of apology. "Yes. I did." I stared at her, trying to find any trace of the woman I thought I loved. The woman I shared a home with. The woman who used to fall asleep with her head on my chest. She was gone. Maybe she was never really there. "You said you loved me," I said. "You said I made you feel safe." "I did," she said, her voice flat. "But love and passion aren't the same thing. I wanted both. And I thought I could live without one. I was wrong." I turned to Kai then. He was buttoning his shirt, still looking everywhere but at me. "Did you know?" I asked. "Did she tell you she was on her honeymoon?" He looked up, shame all over his face. "She said you were separated. That the wedding was a mistake." "I swear, man, I wouldn't have." I laughed. It wasn't joyful. It was sharp and bitter, like the bark of someone who'd finally gone mad from holding it all in. Of course she lied to him too. Why not? She lied to everyone, including herself. I stepped back, toward the door, not because I was done, but because I was seconds away from losing control. My chest felt like it was being crushed. I didn't want to cry in front of them. Not them. But before I left, I had to ask. I needed the last piece, the final nail in the coffin. "Did you ever love me, Claire?" "Not safety. Not comfort. Me." She didn't hesitate. That was the worst part. "I thought I did," she said. "But no. I don't think I ever really did." There it was. The truth. Undeniable. Ugly. Final. I left without another word. The door clicked shut behind me like a bullet casing hitting tile. I walked aimlessly down the hallway, past couples holding hands, laughing, clinking glasses. The kind of people I thought we were just days ago. I felt like a ghost drifting through someone else's paradise. Every step felt heavier than the last. Back in the lobby, I sat on a bench for what felt like hours. My phone buzzed several times, messages from Claire, then a missed call. I didn't look. I couldn't. I was too afraid she'd say something that would make it all worse, or something that would make me doubt myself again. Eventually, I dragged myself back upstairs. She was gone. So was her suitcase. Just like that, she vanished from the room we'd shared. I didn't know if she left to be with him or just to avoid the confrontation, but I didn't care anymore. What haunted me most wasn't just the betrayal, it was how easily she walked away. No tears. No begging. No remorse. Just a cold shrug and the calm conviction that I was never enough for her. That I never could be. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window watching the waves roll in, thinking about everything. About the dinners we shared. The quiet mornings. The way she used to squeeze my hand during movies. Were those moments real? Or just part of her performance? I replayed our entire relationship like a movie in reverse, looking for the cracks I missed. And I hated myself for not seeing them. For loving her so blindly. The next morning, I packed my things in silence. No note. No goodbye. Just a suitcase full of clothes and a head full of ashes. I checked out early and asked the receptionist to cancel the rest of our reservation. When she asked if everything was okay, I smiled. No. But it will be. I didn't go to the airport right away. I couldn't. I wandered the streets of Tenerife like a man without skin, every sound too sharp, every face too alive, every breeze cutting through whatever was left of me. I wasn't ready to return home, not because I wanted to stay, but because I didn't know who the hell I was going home as. I came here a husband. I was leaving as something else. Something broken. Something I didn't yet have the words for. Eventually, I found myself in a small cafe tucked between souvenir shops and scooter rentals. I ordered a coffee I didn't drink and just sat there, staring through the window at nothing. I must have looked like a statue. Time moved around me, but I didn't move with it. My mind kept spinning the same loop, her voice, her face, those goddamn messages, the look of indifference in her eyes when she told me she never really loved me. I kept thinking, how did I miss it? Was I that blind? Or did I just want it so badly I refused to see the cracks? I remembered the early days. The way she used to grab my hand first. The texts that made me smile like a fool. The weekend trips. The late-night talks. All of it felt like it belonged to someone else now. Like I had stolen memories from a stranger's life. And yet they were mine. Weren't they? The worst part was how much I still wanted it to not be real. There was a part of me embarrassingly stubborn that kept hoping she'd come back. That this was just some kind of breakdown. That she'd realize she'd made a terrible mistake. But then I'd remember her words. The coldness. The shrug. The way she counted my love like pennies in a jar and still found it lacking. After an hour, or maybe 5, I stood up and left the cafe. I walked until my feet hurt. I didn't care where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay still. Because if I did, the grief would swallow me whole. I needed motion. I needed noise. I needed something to stop the bleeding inside my chest. I finally made it back to the hotel just as the sun was starting to set. The receptionist gave me a look, curious, maybe sympathetic, but said nothing. I appreciated that more than I expected. I went back to the room, grabbed the last of my things, and checked the drawer where Claire had kept her passport. Empty. She was gone for good. On the way out, I stopped by the concierge desk and asked for a cab to the airport. My voice didn't even sound like mine. The man nodded politely, and I waited outside, watching the palm trees sway in the breeze that no longer felt tropical. Just cold. In the cab, I stared out the window as the island passed me by. All the postcard beauty of the place, the beaches, the cliffs, the ocean, felt like a cruel joke now. It was paradise, sure. But even paradise means nothing when you're living in hell. At the airport, everything felt mechanical. Bags on the conveyor. Passport scanned. Security check. Date. I moved like I'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. No emotion. No hesitation. Just execution. Survival. That's all I could manage. On the plane, I sat by the window and watched the lights of Tenerife disappear beneath the clouds. I felt nothing. No sadness. No rage. Just a vacuum. Like my heart had been scooped out and left somewhere in that hotel room, wrapped in sheets that didn't belong to me anymore. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I opened my phone. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to torture myself. Maybe I wanted closure. There were 2 unread messages from Claire. I stared at the notification bubble for a long time, my thumb hovering. And then, without opening them, I deleted them. I deleted everything. Her contact. Her photos. Every text thread. Gone. Like she never existed. But of course, she had. And the damage she left behind was very real. When the plane touched down, it was raining. Of course it was. The kind of cold, miserable rain that makes you feel like even the sky is ashamed of you. I stepped out into it without an umbrella, without a jacket, without a plan. Just a backpack slung over one shoulder and a suitcase that suddenly felt too heavy for a man who had nothing left to carry. The airport was full of families, couples, kids laughing and running through the terminal like the world still made sense. I watched them all, moving in slow motion, as if I'd landed in a different reality than the one I left behind. I took a cab home. My home. Our home. The apartment Claire and I had chosen together, painted together, furnished piece by piece like we were building the life we always talked about. I remember how proud she was when we hung our first framed photo above the fireplace, us on a hike, sweaty and grinning. I didn't have the art to take it down yet. When I unlocked the door, everything inside looked exactly the same, and completely foreign. The couch where we used to binge shows now looked like a stranger's furniture. The smell of her perfume still clung to the hallway, like she'd just stepped out minutes before. I wanted to burn it all. I wanted to scream. Instead, I dropped my bags in the doorway and just stood there, soaked, staring into the dark. The following days were a blur. I called in sick. I ignored texts from friends. My parents had no idea I was even back yet. I couldn't face their questions, their heartbreak by proxy. The only thing I managed to do was email a lawyer. I told him I needed to annul a marriage that should never have happened. He asked why. I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? Because she was cheating on me before the ink on our marriage license even dried? Because she said she never loved me and used me like a stepping stone on her way to someone more exciting? Because I was nothing more than a placeholder in my own damn life. The nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, and relive every second of that hotel room. Her voice. Her eyes. The sound of her laughter as she whispered to another man in the dark. My mind refused to shut off. It played the scene again and again, like some twisted punishment. I'd fall asleep for an hour, maybe 2, and wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding, convinced I could still hear her voice in the hallway. But with every sunrise, something inside me hardened. Not in bitterness. Not in hate. In resolve. I began moving her things out. Not in a rage, not the kind of fury that breaks plates and tears through closets. No. It was quiet. Intentional. I folded every piece of her clothing. Boxed up her books. Her makeup. Her keepsakes. I didn't smell her sweaters. I didn't reread the notes she'd left me over the years. I just packed. Like a man putting out a fire that had already burned the house down. I didn't contact her. I didn't answer when she texted from a new number. I didn't reply when she emailed saying, "We should talk. Maybe someday we can be friends." Friends. The word made me sick. Friends don't lie. Friends don't rip your soul out and walk away without flinching. Friends don't call you safe like it's an insult. One night, maybe a week later, I sat on the balcony with a glass of whiskey and no tears left to cry. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't mourning her. Not really. I was mourning the man I used to be. The version of myself that believed love was enough. That thought trust could fix everything. That looked at a woman like Claire and saw forever, when all she saw was until something better comes along. That man was gone. And maybe that wasn't a tragedy after all. A few days later, I returned the keys to our landlord. Claire wouldn't be coming back. Not here. Not to this version of her life. And I wouldn't be staying either. That apartment wasn't a home anymore, it was a mausoleum. Every room held memories I no longer trusted. Every corner whispered her name in a voice that sounded like mockery. So I walked away from it. From all of it. I left the keys on the counter, turned off the lights, and closed the door without looking back. The annulment process was surprisingly fast. It felt clinical, like removing a tumor. Cold signatures on paper. No courtroom drama. No fight. Just an email from the lawyer a few weeks later confirming that, legally speaking, the marriage had never existed. Just like that, it was erased. For years together, gone in a paragraph. It was almost laughable. Almost. I told my parents everything, eventually. Sat at their kitchen table, hands trembling around a coffee mug, and said the words I'd rehearsed 1,000 times in my head but still couldn't believe were real. They didn't say much at first. Just sat in silence, my mother's eyes wide with quiet heartbreak, my father's jaw tight like he was trying to swallow all the rage I couldn't express. And then they did what parents are supposed to do. They hugged me. They told me I wasn't stupid for trusting someone. They reminded me that loving someone isn't a weakness. Betrayal is not a reflection of the betrayed. And those words, as simple as they were, broke me in a way nothing else had. I cried for the first time in weeks. I didn't even realize it was happening until my shirt was soaked. I wish I could say everything got better after that. It didn't. Not right away. I had to rebuild myself from the bones up. I had to relearn how to be alone, not in the desperate, lonely kind of way, but in the peaceful kind of way. The kind that doesn't wait for someone to fill the silence. I picked up running again. Cooked for myself, even if I barely ate. Saw a therapist. Told the story out loud to someone who didn't flinch, who didn't rush to fix it, just listened. That helped more than I expected. One night, maybe 3 months later, I walked past a couple on the street. They were laughing, heads tilted back, hands linked like they couldn't bear even an inch of distance between them. For a second, I felt that old sting in my chest. That aching reminder of what I lost. But then, just as quickly, I realized something else. I didn't envy them. I didn't want their love. I wanted something real. Something whole. And I was no longer afraid to wait for it. Claire reached out again, eventually. Another number. Another email. This time, the tone was different, softer, unsure. She said she hoped I was doing okay. That she was sorry, even if she knew it was too late. She didn't ask for forgiveness. Just wanted to say it. And for the first time, I didn't feel rage or pain when I saw her name. I felt distance. Like she belonged to another chapter entirely. A book I'd finished and closed. I never responded. There was nothing left to say. I still have scars. I won't lie and pretend I came out of this unshaken. Some nights, I still wake up gasping, her voice echoing in my head. Some mornings, I catch myself reaching across the bed before remembering it's empty for a reason. Healing isn't linear. Some days I feel strong. Others, I feel like I'm still crawling. But here's the thing, I'm not broken. I'm rebuilding. And piece by piece, I'm becoming someone I can be proud of, not because I survived her, but because I didn't let her destroy the part of me that still believes in love. I may have fallen, but I'm standing now. And this time, I'm standing for me.
Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, shocked you, or simply made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, your thoughts, your story, your truth. Subscribe for more raw, real, and unforgettable confessions. And if this story made you feel seen, share it. Someone else might need to hear it too. You're not alone here. This channel is a safe space for those who've been betrayed, broken, and rebuilt.